Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild.
Here.
Mr. Sean McAndrew.
Present.
Mr. Mark McAndrew.
Present.
Mr. Flynn.
Here.
Mr. Schuster.
Present. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, correspondence dated February 6, 2026, from City Business Administration regarding Scranton Fire Department budget transfer.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
Yeah, I just have one quick one. Today, myself and Councilman Flynn, we stopped over. There was a DPW worker who got hurt. We stopped over to see him. I just want to keep him in our thoughts and prayer for a speedy recovery. And one thing he did say was the officer who showed up on the scene really did a lot to help save, pretty much save his life. So maybe that's something we can do to look into recognizing the great officer who helped out in that situation, but keeping his family and him in our thoughts and our prayers for a speedy recovery.
Thank you. It's good to hear that.
I just wanted to add, as has occurred annually for a while, the Valentine's Day weekend food drive that's usually held at Naog Park, be sponsored by the Hill Neighborhood Association. That's going to be taking place this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. You could drop off donations and supplies, non-perishable food items, or if you want to write out a check, I'm sure they'll accept that too. But it's to replenish the food supplies at some of the donation centers. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
I have one. Just, you know, as Councilman McAndrew said, went over to see the DPW worker that was injured yesterday morning in the hospital. I was told that the officer who put the tourniquet on his leg and essentially saved his life was Officer Joe Flesher. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge him and thank him for all he did for our DPW worker to save his life. And I agree with Councilman McAndrew, if council could do something, some sort of commendation or something for Officer Flesher for what he did for our DPW worker yesterday. We humbly thank him, and we look forward to honoring him more.
Yeah, thank you very much for stating that. I didn't realize it was Officer Flesher. He's taken part in several life-saving events over the last 2 to 3 years, and it's thank him for that. And I'm happy the DPW worker is doing all right at this point in time. Over the weekend, an article came out about our tax bills that are going to be coming out in February. And the Times Tribune had made a mistake in stating that our refuse fee was going up to $600. We did get a lot of phone calls, we did get some emails, but just an announcement that everybody knows, our refuse fee has not increased. It's not $600, it remains where it is at. Another announcement, on the 14th, so Saturday the 14th, there's going to be a Scranton First Responders versus the Wilkes-Barre First Responders at the Mohegan Arena. They're going to play a hockey game. There's going to be a game at 1 p.m. and a game at 6 p.m., and the gates open at 12. The game starts at 1, so it's Scranton First Responders versus the Wilkes-Barre First Responders. It should be a great event. Anyone else that has an announcement?
I think you have a basketball one too, right?
Yeah, I got that. So thanks, Tom, for announcing the hockey game. I think that's going to be wild. The Scranton Police and Fire Department playing the Wilkes-Barre Police and Firefighter First Responders on the ice this weekend. And also the weekend after, and I think I mentioned this before, but this is another great event where the cops play the firefighters at Holy Rosary, a basketball game. It's a riot. I've been to that a couple years in a row. Two great events, and also Officer Fletcher, that's fantastic. I mean, we talk about our hometown heroes. There's an example. And God bless the DPW worker and his family, and I hope he has a speedy recovery. Also, it's no secret that Valentine's Day is this weekend, and I want to wish, like I do every year, all the sweethearts a happy Valentine's Day. And, you know, and to the guys, hang in there, boys. St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just also, that article come out in the paper about the tax bills that will be coming out mid-February, and what the tax office did want everyone to know is that Scranton, there are going to be 2 tax bills that come out in the city. The Scranton City and the Scranton School District tax are going to be in one bill, and the county tax is going to come out in the second bill. So you will receive two tax bills this year, one for the city and the school district, and the other for the county. And they should be coming out in mid-February. If there's any questions, you can contact the single tax office at 570-963-6756. And if you need to call the county about anything having to do with reassessment in the county bill, the county assessment office is 570-963-6728. Fourth order.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Our first speaker tonight is Randy Davis.
Security breach in 2023 for unauthorized identity files through the Fortra LLC.
Okay, so if you could just state that into the microphone, I wasn't sure what you said.
Yes. I have an incident that happened in 2023 with January 28th. I have the letter right here. With the whole Fortra LLC that was working alongside the CHSPC. With the whole incident breach for unauthorized files were given to people's identities. You might recall it was in the incident of the newspaper and whatnot. Now I'm hearing about it 3 years later with SSA, asking me why I have multiple income sources. I'm like, I don't. You guys had a security breach where my files were, literally got a letter from them where my identity was unauthorized, access to a cybersecurity hack through Fortra back in 2023. I have the dates here on the paper. I was just trying to get this arranged so I can handle this matter so that my federal income through SSI, because I am a recipient, isn't being affected because of an identity breach through an LLC that was working with the, according to this here, hold on, let me pull out the letter. Sorry, I'm kind of in a dishevelment because I'm agonizing over this. I had my income frozen because of this, and I didn't do anything to deserve that to happen. It happened because of an unauthorized security breach that I got from a letter from the CHSPC LLC.
Okay, do we have a copy of that document, or is that a copy of the document?
This is the copy of the document. I can have it Xeroxed to you guys so you can have a copy of it.
Yes, if you could, please.
That's possible. I would like to get this situated and handled. So my SSI income is being received. It's frozen at the moment. I'd like it to be active. This was due to a security breach of unauthorized identity records gaining access to a cybersecurity hack during one of their incidents in January 28th and January 30th of 2023. This was supposed to be handled on their end, and now I'm in the mix-up of it in my ass. And the Social Security Administration is asking me, why do I have multiple incomes? I don't. I have only the income you guys provide through the state's federal income service, no other income. I have a bank statement with my bank account. I can show that to you guys.
Okay,
I would never go outside of what I'm receiving federal income and do this. That's wrong, and I know that.
Okay, as long as we can get a copy of that, we could have that information.
I'll hand
so
it
we
to you
can-
now so you guys can have it, and then you can hand it back to me once you've Xeroxed it and whatnot.
Thank you, yeah.
And
if you
these
could
are
just-
the letters I have received from Social Security Administration discussing on that matter, saying, oh, I have more income than my SSI provides. No, I don't. And I would hope on their administrative end that they would, handle these matters and look into them, especially if there's a security breach of unauthorized identity files being breached through their public records of National Archives of people's identities and whatnot being accessed unauthorized through a cybersecurity hack breach, which was the case in this letter. That was addressed to me. And I hope they would handle and manage that on their end. So I'm not being harassed 3 years later or being questioned about my income when I did nothing to it or gained any new income source at all. So I'm wondering why I'm being questioned about this. I tried talking to the SSA. They're all over the place with the current administration changeover. As you may remember, they just had a whole administration exchange changeover as of recently.
Okay, yeah, if you could just leave us with a copy.
Yeah.
She'll take care of it.
And these are the ones from the SSA. I don't think these are wrong. I think that's more the
Yeah, we could just take a copy so we know what's occurring there. Okay, yeah, we're going to have to look into that.
Is that the original copy?
Yeah, go make copies. Alan will make a quick copies, okay? She'll make some quick copies.
Okay.
All right, thank
She'll
you.
be right back.
Yeah, you could take a seat and we'll bring it out to you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, counsel.
Yep. Our next speaker is Les Spindler.
Good evening, oh, she's not here to set the time.
I'm taking the time, let's go ahead.
Good evening, Council, Les Spindler, city resident. You know, this year's very important election, midterms, and it's funny how all of a sudden last week, like 3 students from the University of Scranton came here bashing the mayor that she wasn't here during the snowstorm. I'm not a big fan of the mayor either, but I wasn't here bashing her because when it comes to the election this year, I am a fan of the mayor going against Rob Bresnahan. And it's funny how, you know, they're not city residents, but they were allowed to speak last week. I don't think they should have been allowed to speak. They're not city residents. And there were 2 other residents that wanted to speak, and they weren't city residents, and they weren't allowed to speak either. So enough with that. On Greenridge Street, where they put the new bridge in, going towards Gene Langan Apartments, it used to be North Scranton Junior High School, the right lane is still blocked off. It used to be the straight lane and a turning lane to go into the Greenridge Plaza. I don't know why that's still blocked off. I don't see any reason for it to be. Because now there's 2 lanes still, and I don't know, I drive that way every day. I don't know why that lane has to still be blocked off. The bridge is done, and the temporary bridge was all disassembled too. All they have to do basically now is, I think, take that big dirt pile out of there that they put in. But yeah, so if they could open up that lane, that would alleviate some of the traffic. Next, I spoke about this a few months ago, but a disabled car at 2005 Far Street, it had several tickets on it because it's parked facing the wrong way. It's still there, and it's covered with snow now. So I just wanted to bring it to council's attention again. And lastly, I talked to the one gentleman from PA American Water on his way out. Told him about the storm drains on Dorothy Street, that the one part keeps subsiding. And he said, that wasn't them. He said, that was the city that did that. So 3 of you up there know how many times I've come talking about that. And there's still a big dip there. So, and I said, I told the guy, and he agreed with me. I said, I'm no engineer. It doesn't take an engineer to figure out that it wasn't done right. It's got to be dug up. I know they can't do it now. I understand that. When the weather breaks, that's got to be dug up and refilled and done the right way. Because the ground keeps sinking. I walked that way.
Please alert the city that, you know, to confirm who's going to water company is.
And that was a big,
I will again.
That was a big shock to me, 'cause I definitely thought that was the water company. He said, no, yeah, he said that was the city. So I hope I don't have to keep coming here all summer now. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Mike Mancini.
Good evening, Scranton. Tonight, from my vantage point, second set of locked doors is not a good look. While every business is open and inviting, City Hall is in constant lockdown. Hide and seek is not a good look for the city of Scranton. At the height of Scranton's population, this very same building was able to address 143,000 residents. We do not need to purchase another building. Our historic downtown area will have a critical change to the traffic safety for the worse. We're going to be removing traffic lights from 17 different intersections, and it will create havoc downtown. It becomes very easy to criticize this administration when it comes to ARPA spending, police funding, stormwater issues, infrastructure, blight, safety issues, union contracts, morale of city employees, or the zoning for a hospital. Millions of dollars went out the back door for ARPA-related spending with little or no oversight. Startup businesses never started up, and the ones who did moved or are out of business. You give our police department the best technology. Without the right structure and morale, they will not be able to work well together. Thousands of warrants remain outstanding with no transparency. Instead of caring for safety, the mayor looks the other way. Stormwater issues remain from flooding without being corrected. Others, like Meadowbrook Creek Project, have shredded streets in Greenridge with very little oversight and no end in sight. Pretzel Park will have trees removed at some point, changing the landscape of our historical streets. The mayor ran the other way. We have bridges like the West Lackawanna Avenue Bridge and South Webster Avenue Bridge where pedestrians and school children must walk in the street. Lack of proper signage causes tractor trailers to get stuck under low bridges. The mayor drives the other way. The blight in our city seems to get worse every year. There are dozens of properties that need to be torn down without a plan in place. The mayor looks the other way. I sent my right to know to the administration about my safety concerns. 10 questions with no answers. Is the mayor being honest about her safety? Are things just an uptick or much more? She continues to look the other way. Our city unions dislike the administration to the point that morale is at an all-time low. We have the 8th DPW director in 7 years, while our union employees are still without a contract. Yesterday's meeting between the administration and the union was canceled. In the words of J.G. Wentworth, it's their money and they want it now. Instead, the mayor has better things to do. PA Water, this administration, and 8 different DPW directors have caused unacceptable poor road conditions. The administration's answer to the homeless crisis was to have no meeting in November, December, or January. These critical months for the homeless population, Paige ran the other way. Was there supposed to be 2 pools at NAOG? Yes, she delivered one and ran the other way. One thing is for certain, the majority council will hold this administration responsible. It's refreshing to see the way the council has operated since the beginning of the year. Keep asking the right questions, demanding answers, pointing out issues, and finding solutions, because from my vantage point, our city deserves a heck of a lot more. Good evening, Scranton.
Thank you. Up next is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hoda, 1 at Scranton. No one's mentioned it yet, but the fire at the hospital in Dixon City, I don't know whether any of our firefighters or police or EMTs were part of that response. As far as I've heard, it was an all-hands-on-deck response. I know that we took in patients at CMC and regional. So for anybody in the city, either public employee or private, if you participated in that effort, you have my thanks, and I think they should also be recognized. This caucus that we had tonight, I'm happy that they came. Some useful information came out, but I find it utterly amazing that no one thought other than Dr. Rothchild, that how about a map of who owns what storm drains, you know? Or nobody asked the question, how is it that we had a water main break that was a 135-year-old water main, what was that, Ash Street last week? Is there a plan that they know where the older mains are, and is there a plan to, you know, well, this one's 135 years old, maybe we should, you know, be proactive and fix that one now, and, you know, so on down the line. Though they were useful and gave some good information out, I would love to see someone in the administration sit down and saying, okay, you know, we need to get our act together for the sake of the residents who pay taxes in the city, and you know, common sense things like who owns what storm drain? You know, how many 135-year-old water mains do we have, and what's your plan for fixing them? And on and on. But that's just my opinion. Speaking of the needs for a public caucus, I still think you need to get in the mayor and the director of DPW, and maybe Rubicon, and talk about what they plan to do for the next snowstorm. What went wrong on the last one? What were the lessons learned? And then, of course, there's that ugly question of when are we going to see a union contract for the DPW workers? Are we going to see another call-off of 40 or 30 personnel the next time we have some kind of major weather event? I just can't believe, you know, that we aren't pushing that now. I understand, you know, that labor contracts take a lot of negotiation, but are we even close to maybe saying, hey, we need an arbitrator? We need something. Those people, it's been 406 days since they had a contract. You know,
I learned today there will be a mediator in the next one.
That's the next step?
That's what I was told today by DPW.
Well, I hope they're getting going. And the last thing I want to talk about is tax season. My taxes are paid. And even though I don't own property, I've been paying property taxes since 1999 because I have a family member that I take care of. So I have the right to say something about taxes in this city. Now, my parents lost their home in 1963, mine subsidence, it caved. And it was 5 years before that condemned building was taken off of our hands by the city. For 5 years, my parents paid property taxes. Though legally,
Excuse me.
we could not set foot on the property, okay? My father worked 3 jobs, 7 days a week for that 5-year period to pay all bills, including property taxes. He never got to take a sick day or a vacation day. So when I listened to Tyler Technologies during their many PowerPoint presentations about the reassessment, that they were identifying properties that had never been on the tax rolls. Click. I remember stories when I was a young girl about people who, you know, were building a house or buying a home, and their properties never went on the tax rolls because they knew somebody, okay? We didn't know anybody. We paid our property taxes. So I want Tyler Technologies to provide a public list of all those properties that escaped the property taxes. And I want a wall of shame in this building and in the county and in the government center. I want to see the names, I want to see their mugshots and how much money they stole from the citizens. If my father could work 3 jobs and pay his taxes on a building we couldn't even enter, I want them to have to pay their property taxes, and I want all the delinquent taxes paid. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is William Tressler.
Good evening, Council. My name is Willard Tressler. I'm a student at the University of Scranton. And first, I just want to say on record that for the past 7-8 months, I've pretty much spent every evening going to bed and every morning waking up in the city of Scranton. And I'd like to say that I'm probably more of a citizen than our mayor, Paige Cognetti, but I have other matters to focus on today. So recently, County Commissioner Bill Gowan was talking about ICE's operations within the county. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but essentially he talked about how the county wasn't going to cooperate with ICE when it comes to their operations, and that they weren't going to inquire about the immigration status of individuals. So under the Biden administration, I'm sure many of you know, we've had roughly 10 million illegal immigrants come through the southern border. And we've had no idea who's coming across and who's entering into our country. And under Trump's presidency recently, we've had the lowest level of illegal immigration since 1970, or since the 1970s, with about 10,000 monthly illegal immigrants, according to Pew. So Paige Cognetti in the past has said that she's not going to make Scranton a sanctuary city and that she's going to let ICE do their job. And in light of the county commissioner's recent standpoint, I just want to know how the mayor is going to act going forward. Is she going to put illegal immigrants or Scrantonians as the priority? And does Mayor Cognetti support our federal government establishing a secure border and prosecuting illegal immigrants? And also, I just want to say there's differences between illegal immigrants who are here illegally and legal immigrants who have a legal status here. And the idea that ICE is going after immigrants, that sort of rhetoric is honestly, it's honestly hurtful to people who followed the steps to come here legally. You know, coming here illegally takes a long time, and you know, of course, you can just go around it by coming here illegally. But I think that this rhetoric that ICE and that the current president and the current executive administration is against immigration. It's hurtful for not only immigrants in total, but the immigrants that actually support what's going on. And yeah, protecting illegal immigrants, putting them as the priority, hurts us Americans, and it's important going forward that the Mayor, Paige Cognetti, prioritizes us over illegal immigrants. So I'd appreciate to hear Of course, she's not here today, but I'd appreciate to hear her standpoint going forward when it comes to illegal immigration, ICE's operations, and concerning the city of Scranton. Thank you.
Thank you. George Schottmiller.
Hi, my name is George Schottmiller. I'm a student at the University of Scranton. So I came here today to talk about cooperation between local government and the federal law enforcement, specifically with ICE. Across the country, many different cities have taken different approaches to this issue. Some choose full cooperation with federal agencies, others choose to limit the cooperation through policy or practice. These decisions matter because they directly affect public safety, law enforcement coordination, and how federal resources are used at the local level. ICE is a federal agency with several responsibilities, which include enforcing immigration law, identifying and removing individuals with serious criminal records, combating human trafficking, addressing drug and weapons trafficking, and working jointly with other law enforcement agencies. A significant portion of ICE's enforcement actions involve individuals who have already been arrested or convicted of crimes. When local governments cooperate with these federal agencies, it often means honoring lawful requests and coordinating efforts so that dangerous individuals are addressed efficiently rather than released back into the community. When cooperation is limited, those federal responsibilities become much harder to carry out, and enforcement can shift in ways that are less predictable and less efficient. This is not a very abstract or difficult issue to understand. It affects whether repeat offenders are transferred to federal custody or released. It affects whether local police are working in coordination with federal authorities or operating separately, and it also affects public trust because residents deserve to know how their city handles serious public safety matters. Because of that, I'm asking for clarity rather than just general statements from the mayor. Again, she is not here. I want to know if she will commit that the city of Scranton will cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement and any other federal law enforcement agencies when they are carrying out their lawful duties, including requests for assistance or information that are permitted under federal law. And if the city does limit cooperation, are there any current formal or informal policies that restrict the cooperation with ICE beyond what federal law already requires? If such limits do exist, who implemented them and what is justification? And then if no such limits exist, can residents expect continued cooperation with the federal authorities, particularly in cases involving individuals with criminal records or public safety risks? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa August.
Hi, my name is Lisa August, and I've been a resident of Scranton for 55 years. And I'm here to represent the homeless and the never-ending cycle. And I have a plan to stop the never-ending cycle. I've talked to some CRS workers, and I've talked to people that run the organizations out here, and I've lived on all sides of life. I grew up in the projects. I had a business. I went to jail. I was an addict. I had mental problems. I had medical issues. And I know how to stop the never-ending cycle. We need a building out here that can house the homeless, that can provide mental health, hospitalization, and that can provide drug and alcohol all in one building, that can provide grants for them to be able to succeed. We need them to learn how to live so they could have cooking and cleaning in the place. The people in our town, the regular people, do not know how to get help. And if we provide like a one-year program for them, put 100 people in a building, provide all the needs that they need to change the homelessness in Scranton. It could change the never-ending cycle of them going to shelters, going into jail, coming back out as addicts. If they had the stability to succeed, we can change homelessness. And I talked to CRS workers, and they're drawing up a plan. I put in for some grants because this was my plan all of my life. This is my plan all of my life to change society and help the people in the community. I've always tried to feed all the people in the community when I had my money, when I had my store. I let the homeless people sleep in the back of my store. So I'm asking for help to try to change one thing. I know that they want to change. They don't want the homeless people in the streets, and they're going to keep going back into the streets if there's no system. So I'm asking for help. The guy says there's so many empty buildings here. Give us an empty building. And the girl that was talking, she says they know how to get the grants. People, the average person does not know how to get the grants because I don't know how to get the grants. And if I did know how to get the grants, I don't know. Everything is just so hard. The grants are so hard to get. There's a whole process of grants, and homeless people are not going to do that. They're going to be homeless, they're going to be on the streets, and they're going to end up right back where they came from. They're going to end up in jails, they're going to end up back on drugs because there's no system to help them. So I'm just asking for help because I know the system will work, and I have people that back me up. I have some CRS workers that want to work with me, and I'm sure other people from the community can all pitch in. And I'm sure if you want to make the city a better city, we could clean up the railroad tracks and all the homelessness and get that out of there and stop the never-ending cycle. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ron Ellman.
Good evening, Council. Ronnie Ellman. I haven't been sick, I just haven't been coming. Someone thought I might have died, I guess. I'm just as vocal and opinionated as always. And I want to welcome you to new suits up there. You're replacing the disastrous lame duck that left this city so much chaos and turmoil purposely. It's you know, in the paper I saw last week, 50 foreclosures, 20 in the city. And Cognetti thinks this is such a, things are so good. 50 foreclosures aren't good. This woman got 9,000 votes to be in office, but there was 7,000 votes against her. That's not a favorable, overwhelming win, I don't think. I hope you two will overcome all these wealthy non-residents who have bought up all the old, obsolete downtown properties that are all tax exempt because of their age, but they use grants, loans, loan forgiveness, everything they can to remodel these old places, and they're tax exempt. They use our money and they're tax exempt. They've had I guess an extravagantial bonanza on the taxpayers. It's my opinion that this mayor has wrongfully used her position and trust as a ploy to obtain grants, to obtain all this money that should be meant for Scrantonians, but's been funneled downtown for her sick, demented obsession of rebuilding the place for the developers. It's a residential utopia being done right under your noses. I didn't come to your first meeting because I've had 5 years of listening to misinformation and nonsense and so forth, how good things are. And she seemed to have a lapse of memory. About 200 miles are the worst streets in Pennsylvania. Your children are walking to and from school buses on remnants of sidewalks all over this city, if any sidewalks. Right there where I live, there's areas with no sidewalks. Everywhere there are sidewalks, there's so many rentals now, that all these houses have been turned into rentals. The sidewalks are used for parking lots. This is the crooked Scranton that I keep talking about, that I live in. And before I go, I just want to ask you two new gentlemen. This council gave away a couple $1 million to the Scranton Parking Authority. I've been trying to get them to give veterans and handicaps free parking downtown, and I wish you would bring it up. There's not a reason in the world this couldn't be done for these people. Thank you.
Mr. Vollenberg, is that something we could look into?
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you. Next up is Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. My first thing here tonight is, you know, for the people that are thinking of using Lake Scranton for cooling water for data centers, I think the residents have to realize one thing, well, a couple things. You should read what Pennsylvania American Water's corporate plan is, because I really think you should educate yourself. The other thing is you need to realize that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania owns all the water. Okay, now, nothing personal against the council, but I just don't find you to be competent. And I think the way forward is we need a new home rule charter in this city. And we have to use the eminent domain as a way to recapture the water system in this city, the sewer system in this city. And we need to ask ourselves another question. How come residents of Alaska get money for oil and gas exploration that went on there and the money that's raised? And in Pennsylvania, we don't get anything. And we've got the biggest oil and gas fields probably in the country. We have terrible elected officials. You can't even, you know, you look at, bring up ECTV for a minute. $1.6 million in a franchise fee. And yet the public doesn't have access to that channel now because the politicians and the council circumvented it. Not only did they do that, they gave one of the channels away, which tells you that they really don't work for you, because that channel was created by the Congress and Senate to give people a voice in their community. And the city itself looks worse than it ever looked in my lifetime. We've torn down a lot of buildings that we'll never be able to build again. Never, because we don't have that kind of money. You know, you talk about the roads and the bridges. We don't maintain any of that stuff. The budget itself isn't even real. Now, I could do a forensic audit of the city. You should invite me to do that. I'm going to ask a federal judge to let me do that to ECTV's books. Because what I think is we've created a major serfdom here. I don't think you council members are capable. I've come here for 40 years. I've watched it all. I've heard it all. I don't know. You look at our state senator and you look at our state representative that was on this council. What have they done for us? What have any of them done? Look at our educational system. We just had some students. I was amazed these students got up here and spoke about ICE and were fairly articulate and were knowledgeable. You know, there's a lot of different ways to come into a country, but the number's much more than 10 million because we don't know how many just got away. And you know, when you've got a president of the United States who gave the eulogy to the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, which was Joe Biden, and you name an exit after the man? Because the Democrats have never been for the ordinary people. They were for slavery and all the other things. And look at some of the things that Lyndon Johnson said in the 1960s about blacks. The country's a mess. I don't hear any vision coming from this council. We have a mayor who doesn't live in the city, who was elected. It's amazing how broken this city is. And you're never going to do anything. You're just going to sit there and tell people you're legislators. Okay? And in the end, what's going to happen is people are going to have to find out whether they have standing. They're going to have to pick up a law book, like I've done, and they're going to have to try to move through it. Because it's really pathetic where we find our country and how uneducated our children are. As our society declines, and then as we put up with elected officials that are lapdogs for politicians in higher office, we just keep getting drowned out. People can't afford their water bills, their gas bills, their sewer bills, their taxes, and you have no answers, and you never will have one. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council?
Good evening. It's my first time here since the new council was seated, so welcome. I just wanted to mention about the gas company. The gas company is going for a rate hike on March 29th. I haven't heard anybody talking about that or speaking about it, and I haven't seen anything in the paper about any PUC hearings with the gas company. So my question is, are there going to be any hearings? Are you guys and the representatives in Harrisburg going to fight for us with the gas like you guys did with the water? That's my question, if they know anybody where it's going to be and if they're going to have any kind of meetings. Another question I'm going to ask, since there's new people on the council too, is does anybody have an update on 421 Colfax Avenue that was taken off the demolition list because it was in litigation? Or is it still in litigation? Or if anybody could find that out, because we would really love to see it gone on our block. And
We can find out about that.
okay, so that's it. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. And in terms of meetings, I haven't heard anything yet on gas hike.
No, but I'll check into it. I'll reach out to the PUC.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Council. Tom Coyne, Manuka. I sent you all a email, which I'm sure that you haven't gotten a full in-depth read on it because it's quite long, and I sent it purely because it would not be able to be spoken of and absorbed within a 5-minute time span. First of all, I was asked from one of the people who were taking a look at tonight's meeting and made comments on the ECTV channel to note that University of Scranton students, especially if they're full-time, live here more than 6 months and 1 day. So unless we're going to micromanage and somehow say that the homeless can't talk because they live here but they don't have a residency, I think we would micromanage this speaking forum a little bit more than necessary. They live in the University of Scranton and they're full-time students. They reside here by PA law because they're here over 6 months. That's all that's required for them to be a resident, and they should be allowed to speak. It was noted that my sarcasm in the last session on the stoplights being funded by the governor down in the other municipality and improved because of safety, and then at the same time up here, the same lights that are dangerous and need to be pulled down in other communities need to be improved for safety. It was sarcastic because it seems that depending upon the agenda of the people in charge decides what safety is. Not what real safety is, but what safety wants to portray. And that's a big issue. We had a comment about a data breach in January. That's pretty amazing that we had a data breach in January of 2024. That's never happened before, has it? Well, we know it has. It happened behind this very building. Moving on to issues here that are, I mentioned about the Axon cameras in the email and the flock cameras. The issue is not so much of license plates, but the aggregative data that they collect. When they can follow you home, they can follow your associations, they can follow your children, they can follow what groups you go to, what church you go to, what political venues you meet. Collect them all together and do a map of your entire lifestyle. That's an issue. That's not just we're looking for license plate, it becomes a real surveillance network. And that's an issue that we need to look at, especially considering what the recent one of the courts saying that all flock camera data, you can access it through right to knows. Because since it's not an investigation, they snap everyone, it's open for right to knows because since it's taking care of everyone and it's a public resource, people have the right to ask for the data from those cameras. And eventually someone will, to find out where people, politicians go to, who they associate with, who they talk to, who their churches are. It's a slippery slope. And we need to look at this beforehand reasonably towards what barriers need to be put in place for safety so we're not giving a police surveillance state. Moving on before my time runs out, we have 5C and D. I would like to ask on the reappointments for the Civil Service Commission, since they are a decision-making body, have these two applicants put in the SOFI forms?
They have.
Okay. And on that, the dates need to be changed in the actual legislation, because according to the authorizing legislation of the body itself, they're to the end of the term of the mayor, so a date should not be put on there. It is through the end of the mayoral term is the actual expiration. That is part of the governing body and the charter of those organizations, so it cannot be changed just by, we'll throw in a random date. That's the verbiage that was on the 2003 that I put forward to the body. Other than that, have yourself a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Hello, Council. Rick Little speaking. I'm wondering, because half the people that speak here, they stay back here and you can't hear what I'm talking. What would it take to get a $10 Bluetooth speaker to put out there so you can hear? I see these giant speakers, but I can't hear half the people. Maybe you could make a fine against people who don't talk into the microphone loud enough. That might enforce stuff. I was really glad to see the students from Scranton coming here, because the same people have been running the government, and most of those people are judges in this state. But I'd just like to put it out there. If you want to run for a PA state senator, you have to live in PA for 4 years and live in the district for, I think, 6 months. And if you want to be a PA rep, you have to live in, I believe, Pennsylvania 1 year and something like that. But people should look into it, because people give up on democracy, and they mainly do that because of their education and their media. I mean, when I think of ABC Media and WNEP, it just makes me sick, because I've been following it all my life. You know, Combat was on ABC, but, you know, after Stephanopoulos was on Bill Clinton's cabinet, you know, he goes into the media business. People don't know what's going on, and my advice, because I've found over the years, people are, if you want to get a good idea of what's going on, you got to listen to Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens at this point, and Leah Carroll. There's other people, because our media is gone. That's why Trump was always pointing out fake news all the time. It's gone. It's wrong. You read the Times-Tribune, half the articles, you know, they're written by Bloomberg or Associated Press, all these people that it's political. And, you know, also, you know, all this Hitler stuff I see. I saw a sticker, you know, on the side of a thing, you know, a picture of Hitler, and then it's half the face is Trump, you know. It's like this thing, and people are put into these detention centers, and they're complaining about them. You know, I'm thinking about Andersonville Prison during the Civil War. I mean, all these things are like, you have to fill out an application and everything. They should make 1 month where they just get rid of the illegals. And people are saying, oh, well, there's 10 million illegals. There's over 20 million illegals. And the whole world is legal. And, you know, half the judges are partisan judges, and they're really administrative judges. And, you know, I see the flag here doesn't have gold fringe, which that's the other part of the problem, is maritime law. But, you know, I hope to save Scranton, it's going to take, I hope some of these students, because I really learned a lot about government when I went to Buffalo State. I was very involved in the student government, and it really gives you a good idea, you know, and through that I met Harvey Weinstein, who ran Harvey and Corky's there. You know, I met John Prine from our concert committee, and I'd make bills all the time for different things, and you get an idea about the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, and how things work. But our whole country, I mean, the two things that kill our country more than anything else is communism and Islamic. They come in, Obama flew them in, and they're making all these gun laws through the UN, you know, rich white men at the UN in New York. This has taken our country down. We need some thinking people in office, and I hope young people run. Thank you.
Thank you. Fifth order.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a couple of brief ones. Bear with me a moment. First, just wanted to apologize for my recent absence. I know you all missed me, but I was ill with the flu and then lost my voice after I was even feeling better from the flu, which was unfortunate. And then I did have a planned vacation following that, and thankfully was feeling better enough to do that. But I did want to make mention of the storm that had occurred, the large storm that we have had a lot of questions and a lot of concerns brought to us by residents, which I've received as well. So I do appreciate the work that DPW had done during the course of that storm. I know it was a very large undertaking, but I also understand that there were things that could have been done better, and that it did take quite a while for snow to be cleaned up around many of our neighborhoods and intersections. Even had received a lot of issues within my own neighborhood. So I appreciate the questions that have been brought forward by my fellow council members, and I'm also interested in ensuring that we have a better plan for the future to address large storms such as this. And let's see. Next, I know Ms. Hodowanitz brought up Lehigh Valley Health Network and the fire, and I believe I did see that Scranton Fire was dispatched out to assist with that fire, and so I appreciate the work that all the firefighters and emergency services had done to work on saving the people that were in the hospital, the employees, the patients, and then doing what they could to get the fire out as well. The orthopedic section and the rehab section and MRI were a total loss, and it's actually the company that I work for. So there's been a lot of changes throughout the company to try to absorb the patients and to continue having the employees, the orthopedic doctors, the therapists seeing patients, but the hospital side of things, and if you've been reading the news and the updates on it too, have explained that there was a firewall that really helped to prevent as much damage to the hospital side of things and the fire from entering into that side, but there was damage from the smoke, but I believe that should be opening up sooner than later. And in the meantime, they're doing everything to still keep orthopedic appointments and to reschedule patients for MRIs and further therapy services as well. So it's not, that's just what I've seen as someone being within the network, but not a formal statement on behalf of LVHN. And I had a resident complain regarding cars and vehicles that are being parked on the sidewalks within the hill section, particularly Harrison Avenue. This has long been a complaint, something that I've brought before council in the past over the years, and I believe other council members have brought this up too. We really need better enforcement, especially along Harrison Avenue. A lot of these properties do have access behind the homes and through the alleys, and so maybe some other parking options, but instead they often block the sidewalks, making it difficult for people to walk on the sidewalk. So I did receive some pictures. I believe there's several blocks that are impacted by this, but the complaint I received was specifically about the 600 block, so I will forward that along, but I would ask for some cooperation from SPD in maintaining this. I know that there's supposed to be a certain amount of footage for pedestrians to walk on the sidewalk, but I know many of these vehicles are over that, or there's really no space. And so then when you have that combined with the amount of snow that there's still around, then you have people walking in the streets, and that's not safe either.
I'll bring it to their attention again, Doctor.
Thank you. I'd greatly appreciate that. And there was another issue I had brought up a few weeks ago, and it came up tonight again on Greenridge Street and the bridge issues, the traffic issues there. Received a few complaints about that, and I know I brought it up before, but I don't think I saw any response on that. Is there any information that we've received on opening up that other lane or ways to alleviate the traffic congestion?
No, I'll ask about the second lane. I know they've already looked into switching the light, the turning
Yes.
signal.
Right.
I'll follow up on both.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I have for tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. Sean McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes. First, I'm going to follow up with some questions I asked last week that we got answers to. First was the emails from the district that council still has not gotten from the storm. I had a great call with IT Director Rieger, so I appreciate him reaching out and having a conversation with me today. Understanding from what I was told, there was something that flagged them on the district side for their domain and email that came in. Normally that takes about 7 days. That like puts a block on the whole domain, which was interesting to me because I had them send emails, test emails after that, you know, a week after. I had them send one today and I still haven't gotten it. I believe there's maybe another email that might have triggered another reset to the clock. That's an update I got when I left here. So as of today, we still don't have those emails. Normally when an email domain is blocked, that means any email from that domain, which would be the school district, should not be able to come into the city email address. Interesting enough, when I spoke with the district, there was emails going back and forth that whole day, from the morning up until 6:30, 7 o'clock. And the email we were sent was at 5 o'clock. So again, I'm thrilled that the administration got the email. They needed to get that email. My question is, why do we not have that email? I was told all the blocks and everything has been removed, but it's still concerning that certain people with city email addresses got the emails and were able to correspond back and forth, but the 5 of us here weren't. Okay? So I'm going to still look into that and try to ask some more questions, but to me, that doesn't make any sense to me. Next was Fidelity. I asked if there was going to be a more in-depth inspection. There was a report before they even voted to purchase the building from October from the engineering the engineering firm. The response I got was yes, there'll be another. Not who, not when. Update we got now was they can't do the roof inspection yet because of the snow, so it's a 15-day extension. Well, when was the extension agreed upon? Was it before last meeting, or was it in between these, this week and last week? When I first got on council, I had a great meeting with the administration, telling us that they want to work together, they want to answer our questions, and kind of be a team and go back and forth. I've been on here a month. The questions we are getting are vague. They never give us a little extra. They never give us the full picture. Just a simple yes is shocking to me. If they gave us all the information saying, yes, it's going to be 2 weeks, here's what we have so far. If everything else is done on that inspection instead of the roof, give us that information now so we can digest it. Instead of waiting another week, and who knows when the full report's going to be there. Is it going to be the last meeting before the due diligence period's over? To me, it feels like, they're kneeling and trying to run out the clock. And again, I'm hoping the inspections come back and everything's fine. But what if it's not? So it's frustrating that when we ask these type of questions, and you'll see the next one when I talk about the storm, we get very vague answers or parts of answers and drips and drabs. And if I think that's going to make me stop asking questions, well, they don't know me. They don't know what I did in the school board. They don't know where I'm from on Orm Street. We don't quit. I will continue to ask these questions until we get answers. So hopefully, I know they're watching, they start giving us all the answers at once, or at least give us a forecast when to expect the answers. Next, the storm. I was told we were going to get a post-storm report. That was 2 weeks ago. DPW director will do an after-action review of the past storm. Okay, fast forward to this week. The response we got, let me pull that up so I read it word for word. Apologize for the delay. The response we got was the administrator, I asked also, once we get the post-storm report, can it be put on the website so the residents can see it? Because we got so many people coming to council to discuss it, but also so many calls and emails and stuff on social media complaining about the roads and the conditions and how it was handled. The response we got was the administration can discuss additional DPW concerns with council in executive session. Okay? For administration that for the past 7 years talked about transparency this, transparency that, that's not transparent. All right? When so many people probably called the administration, called us, came here to speak, and want answers from this, to say it's going to be discussed in the executive session and not give us that post-storm report, which we still don't have, or put on the website. You know, what I learned, I've been a public official for about 5 years, and I hate using that word, but I have been. When people keep saying transparency, 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 normally they're not the most transparent. It's when you don't have to say it and you do the work, that's when you are transparent. So I would like an answer, a physical document of the post-storm report. And some of the answers I believe we're getting back is saying that because they're in contract discussions and negotiations, to mix the storm report with contract negotiations is crazy to me. I mean, I understand them not giving us the information regarding how much they have set aside for the contract report, or for the upcoming contract. I get that. Maybe they think we're going to say it out loud or something like that. That's fine. But what's concerning to me is when I get calls all last week that somebody who working the campaign is on social media saying, oh, I know what's in that contract with the DPW want, and it's going to light the city on fire, and it's so expensive. So do I have to join the campaign team to get that answers? Is that how we're going to do this? Like, information, if it's not going to go to council, should not go outside of here. And I'm not saying that's even true, that it was, but that's what at least somebody's saying that's working the campaign directly. So going forward, I would like a report from the administration giving us a post-storm report, okay? They said they were going to do it. Let's do it. Let's have it open, because everybody wants answers, and they deserve answers. I did ask for the pre-storm plan. They did give me some answers on that. You know, I think some of it was discussed. They maintained crucial roadways throughout the storm. Before the storm, they put salt down, and they focused on the routes, the hospital routes, intersections, hills, and continue to plow. Post-storm report, or their post-storm plan was, phase was to improve, open, and treat roads. That's it. Again, very vague. Not how many trucks were out, how many this, how many that. That's what we're looking for to learn from this. Again, this is a learning period. So that is all the questions I have for administration. So I hopefully get that information. The last one I do have was, Frank, we worked on this today. A lot of complaints over the North High Park Ave. There's a house over there, I believe it was condemned 754. Every other week, doors wide open. I'm getting complaints from residents that people are in and out of that house during all hours of the day and the night. Some concerns from people who live in that area. They have family members who go to work early. They don't want them walking out alone because there's some people, again, hanging around that house that probably shouldn't be there. So I think, Frank, we got a good response back that DPW will be boarding it up and also probably putting on the condemned list. So we'll keep an eye on that, but I just wanted to report that out.
I'll follow up.
All right, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mark McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, I do. So, piggybacking on Councilman McAndrew to the right of me, with his inquiry about an after-storm report, and administration wants to reserve that for an executive session, is horrendous. It's ridiculous. I'm here, quite a few years. Every time we have an executive session, we have to beg for one. When I was on school board, and some of my colleagues here, executive sessions were the norm, right? And only certain things can be discussed. But my tenure here, there might have been three, but we had to beg for them. But for them, administration to come back and say, oh, you want to report on the storm? We'll reserve that for an executive session. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's preposterous. It's I don't know what's going on there. Well, I do know what's going on there. All right, and the next up, so I'm sure everybody's familiar with the detour on Main Avenue that's going to be up there for the Leggett's Creek bridge they're replacing for at least a year. All right, so there is a detour. And the detour going north up Main, you turn left onto Wells and take it all the way up to Marvine. And then there's a stop sign there. At that stop sign, and it's very tight. Even when there's no snow on, on both sides of the road, it's a very tight turn with oncoming traffic utilizing that detour in the different direction. Right at that stop sign at Marvine, there is a huge hole now. I don't know if it's a result of the horrific weather we've had, but Mr. Voldenberg, that one of the detour signs that were there next to the stop sign, it's down in this hole now. I mean, it's part of the gutter, but it's encroaching onto the road, so it's very dangerous. I see accidents happening, or potential accidents, because the way how busy that is now with the detour. If you could please have DPW take a look at it. I have pictures. I actually stopped. It's how I get to work. I actually stopped and took pictures, and it's even bigger than it was at once since some of the snow has melted away. It's very scary, so and very dangerous. So it's a public safety issue we need to address immediately.
I will, sir.
Thank you. And secondly, so a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, but and this has been ongoing, the HUP test about the nonprofits, right? We've been talking about this for a couple of years. Lackawanna County said, yeah, we're going to put together letters, and we're going to work on this, and we're going to work on it together. And the city say, well, Lackawanna's doing it. They're doing it for us. They're going to send the letters out. And they did a couple of years ago, and the final one went out in September. And I asked about it, and they said, oh, no, they're going to send another one out. They're preparing it now with, let me see. So I asked, I'm sorry. Oh. So when I did inquire about it, they said they're sending out a second round of letters to the people that didn't respond in the first place. These are nonprofits that didn't respond. So I asked to follow up, Mr. Voldenberg to follow up, and I said, I want to expand on my inquiry. Who are the parties that did not respond the first mailing, which was a year and a half ago? And now they're sending a second mailing, and they're going to give them months to respond to that. This May's upcoming May. So the answer I got was, oh, they appointed counsel and assessment office reviewed a draft letter this week to the entities, and they're going to send it to the entities that didn't respond in the first place. I didn't ask that. I already knew that the entities didn't respond in the first place. My question was, who didn't respond the first time? Simple. I didn't get that answer. I got a roundabout bunch of verbiage that doesn't answer my letter. I answer my question. All right, so can you please ask for the list of people or nonprofits that didn't respond the first time?
I will.
All right, and maybe they have, and if there's any reason why, or, but I'm not asking anything else. I want that answer. And I've been getting a bunch of inquiries as to what nonprofits are. Is it a general nonprofits they're considering? Not just like the large universities, but they're talking about other, like every nonprofit within the Scranton area. Because it was never clear who they were actually contacting. But just give me, give me some examples. But we definitely need to know who didn't respond. That's the question I asked, so I'd like that answer. Also, I want to follow up on this gentleman emailed me on some issues that I brought up in the past and that hasn't been taken care of. This one I haven't brought up. It's a new one from this gentleman. So, all right, we're 2 weeks into the snowstorm, since the snowstorm. In his alley, which is the 1500 of Rosen Court, is solid ice. So could we please relay that to the DPW, see what they can do about that?
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
And to clarify for him, he's saying that, he has to put his recycling is required out front, but that's for pretty much everybody, but he has an issue with that. So I'm not sure. I don't know I don't know the answer. Does DPW pick up recyclings in certain alleys or courts that I'm unaware of? But for the most part, I thought it was out front. All right. And he also, and this is, he has an issue with the 300 of Fig Street that runs along Schimpf Court. and Fisher Place in Southside. I guess there's a lot of blight issues that code enforcement's aware of that has never really done anything. You know, could we see the status of the owner and the cleanup of this property?
I will. That's a chronic problem. They're
Yeah, I know,
calling it
but
a junkyard, and I'll follow up.
And this gentleman said that.
We brought it to them last week again.
I'm sorry, what?
We brought it to them again last week.
All right, well, could we get an update on that to
I
see
will.
where code enforcement is with that? And also, I brought this issue for this gentleman a month ago, and I don't know if it was correct or not, because we used to get from administration updates on our inquiries with regards to quality of life and the status thereof, but Mr. Cipriani used to do that for us, but not anymore. I think we should get back on that schedule. So, but this inquiry or this concern I brought up was Pittston Avenue and Campbell Street. There's a paved cut that has sunk on the corner, all right? If we can please check on that, the status of that.
I will.
And that's all I have, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn, do you have any motions or comments?
I do, thank you. I'll talk a little bit about the one response that I got from the administration. If anyone remembers, there was discussion around the call-offs, and I was discussing how, you know, were they two separate issues? There was a big article in the newspaper about how the call-offs hampered plowing and snow removal. I asked a bunch of questions around how many trucks we had, how many routes were covered. All of that was said that none were left uncovered. So last week, I asked a specific question to say, at what point during the storm were there plows that were ready and available to be plowing that were not due to the lack of manpower? And I got the same response of the administration could discuss additional DPW concerns with council in an executive session. And this was already semi-litigated in the newspaper, right? I don't know who brought it to the newspaper, who was the one that said, maybe someone called the administration and said, is this true? Did you really have this many call-offs? But there was conversation had in the newspaper about this specific issue. And now I'm being told that it needs to be in an executive session. I had multiple people reach out to me, comments back and forth on Facebook posts about the DPW call-offs as well as the snow removal and what the issue was there. And I was asking the question, Mr. Vollenberg, as you noted, was to try to get a fuller view. Did one impact the other, or were they two different issues? So I would like to ask the administration what the rationale is, why they can't answer if any plow trucks that were ready and available were not filled, what the rationale is there as to why they can't answer that question publicly.
I'll go back again.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that Pennsylvania American Water came in tonight. I've been talking a lot about them in my time on council. I was glad to have that dialogue with them. I do believe that we as a council, myself, need to stay on top of them with some of the data center stuff. That's a big issue. That's going to continue being a big issue. And what I heard from them on that topic tonight was very reassuring. Most of my questions around consumption, capital, operating costs, infrastructure costs I was going to ask them, they addressed in their remarks that would all be on that potential data center if that even came to be. But I do believe that we need to stay on that before it gets away from us and we don't have really any say in the issue to continue that dialogue with the water company, knowing that this is an issue that's not going away anytime soon. As well as I'm happy to see that they'll be coming back when the weather gets better to talk about some of these restoration projects, the final restoration, and making sure that we keep on top of them with that as well. Like I've talked about for so long, in my neighborhood, it's been it's been mayhem for quite some time. So I really want to see this get across the finish line, and having that constant communication with them, I hope, leads to that result. One final thing I just wanted to bring up, because I believe Ms. August was talking about it in her remarks to council. I thank you for coming and talking about this. I've been talking about our homeless population, our unhoused population, and the services that we should be providing them for a long time since I started on this council. I'm also a person in recovery. The company that I have employs a great number of certified recovery specialists. I'm in that field as well in my day job. I've been talking a lot about providing some resources to meet individuals where they're at, as many touch points as we could possibly have to meet with someone to get them the help they need in any position when they're willing and ready to do that. The more touch points, the better. My suggestions were around the Code Blue shelters to have individuals in there to provide resources. I'm in discussions now with some individuals around that, but I just want you to know that these conversations, at least from our body, are happening. We're committed to trying to make a difference for every resident of Scranton, and I will not stop that fight. So I just wanted to reiterate that and talk about that a little bit, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a few comments. First, Mr. Voldenberg, looking at Engine 10, it was included in the capital budget that there would be a study on Engine 10, possible replacement or upgrades there. Can we ask the administration for an update on where we're at with the study? I believe we may have applied for a grant. Have we applied for that grant? Has the grant been awarded, or is it still pending? And just get an overall general update on the study for Engine 10.
I will.
Thank you. When it comes to the Meadowbrook project, I got a couple concerns from individuals asking for updates on that, because it's been quite some time since we spoke about it. We did speak to the administration, and they did say that the state is starting to push the city to move forward with this project. So at this point in time, slightly half of the easements have been attained. But one thing to keep in mind is no work will begin until all the easements have been obtained. So it's something for those residents to keep in mind. Speak with the city, reach out to the coordinator, but the boots are not going to be hitting the ground until all of those easements are attained. I asked quite a while ago about 915 Euclid Avenue. It's a house that's in disrepair over on Euclid Avenue in Tripp Park, and I was told yesterday that the house has been condemned. So that's an update on 915 Euclid Avenue. The home is condemned. We did get several things in fourth order. Ms. Hodawanitz brought up about 100-year-old water mains. In our conversations with the water company, can we ask, do they know the locations of all of our water mains that are older, especially over 100 years old, but the older water mains, and what their plan is for updating those mains?
I'll reach out for that listing.
Thank you very much. There was a piece of legislation that was passed regarding SAPA, and there was also a conversation that was had with the administration about adding data centers into SAPA, and they stated that eventually it would be added into the SAPA plan, but that's going to be sometime down the road, and probably some action will take place before that occurs. So just wanted to give you an update on that, and that is all I have for this evening.
5B for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract between the city of Scranton and the Scranton School District with Rainey & Rainey to perform the Scranton Single Tax Office independent audit for fiscal years ending December 31st, 2023 and December 31st, 2024.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signaling by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Robert Soffinelli as a member of the Scranton Civil Service Commission for a term expiring January 6, 2030.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, Mr. Gilbride, it was brought up about the dates, and the Civil Service Commission does coincide with the term of the mayor. It is a good point to bring up. It's something that we could explore as we move to seventh order.
Yeah, Mr. President, I looked at that when Mr. Flynn brought it up. It appears that the reorganization that year will be January 1st, as it was 2 years ago, which would be the end of the mayor's term at that point. So it would either need to reflect the end of the mayor's term or that date.
All right, thank you very much. All those in favor of introduction signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Catherine Bogacek as a member of the Scranton Civil Service Commission for a term expiring January 6th, 2030.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced to its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed to Council number 5, 2026, approving and authorizing the acquisition by easement agreements, deed in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise of the necessary rights, franchises, licenses, easements, or titles of land required for permanent and temporary easements in order to complete the Lindy Creek Flood Mitigation Project, and authorizing the filing of a declaration of taking pursuant to Section 302 of the Eminent Domain Code if required.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 13, 2026. Resolution for plan revision for new land development located at 448 West Market Street.
What's the recommendation for the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Second.
On the question. On the question, I have a few things. I got a little confused there because I had notes on my agenda here, and the notes disappeared mid-meeting. This property here, right now, council is just approving the application to DEP for their sewer lines. So this is just putting it out to the Department of Environmental Protection. What occurred at the Planning Commission was that the Planning Commission approved this contingent upon the approval of their DEP sewer. I will say that this here is a good reason why we need to look at our zoning ordinance in that area. This was originally a 10-unit apartment that was going to have 10 parking spots, and the 2023 ordinance has 1 spot per unit. It's now been decreased to a 6-unit with 6 parking spaces. If we had the old ordinance where it was 1.5 spaces per unit, we would alleviate a lot of the congestion problems that may occur here on West Market Street. So just the reason why we should be looking back at that ordinance and making those updates. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, no business at this time.
If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned.